What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1994 Nissan Caravan Silk Road. Below me is a 2.7-liter diesel inline-4, as well as a 5-speed manual transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this Nissan Caravan for two reasons. First of all, I never knew that these vehicles existed. We never got these here in the United States, and so it's always exciting to me to drive something that we never got. But the second reason is the fact that this is a very interesting look at how Japan handled minivans versus how we did here in America. So we have plenty to talk about with the 1994 Nissan Caravan Silk Road. But if you would like to share your vehicle with me, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out. I come out to you, and a link to that can be found in the description below. But let's get back to that 2.7-liter diesel inline-4 underneath me. Well, we did in fact get it here in the United States, but not in the packaging you might assume. This is actually, in the US, a forklift engine. It's a very reliable, very stout 4-cylinder. It has mechanical everything. And horsepower isn't really its strong suit, but that's okay. It's a workhorse, and this van is a workhorse, and so we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. But like I said, paired to it is a 5-speed manual. Clutch is super light and friendly. The shifter throw is fantastic, although it is long. But overall, no complaints. You could find the upper trims and nicer variants with an automatic transmission, but this, of course, is the manual. Last but not least about the drivetrain, this is rear-wheel drive. Kind of an interesting quirk. Now, one nice thing about the drivetrain for American buyers is that it actually shares a lot, actually most of its parts, with the Nissan hardbody D21. Overseas, in Japan, they actually did sell a hardbody with this engine, so it's essentially a hardbody drivetrain. If you need brakes, differential parts, transmission parts, anything like that, you can buy American hardbody Nissan pickup truck parts and they will work. So how does it feel to drive a Nissan Caravan? Which I apologize if I slip up and ever call it a Dodge Caravan. My American brain might interfere. Well, it's slow. I mean, it's incredibly slow, but it's a very bouncy, very cushy ride. Visibility is fantastic. Yeah, I'm sort of sitting in a fishbowl up at the front here, but I like that for a vehicle like this. I can see the whole world. Steering is light. It's like driving a car in that sense, but of course, it's a lot bigger. So overall, as long as you don't have a big buildup of traffic behind you, it's actually quite the fun little drive. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have very simple gauges. Nissan of this era was sort of known for that. The Skylines, the 240SXs, the Sentras, all very clean, concise gauges, and I love that. It's easy to read at a glance, and that's all I need to know. Down to the bottom left of the gauges, I do have my rear wiper control, and down below that, we have the idle speed for the diesel engine. Now, the steering wheel has been swapped out with a Momo wooden unit, and I like it, but this is not the factory one. Off to the right of the gauge cluster, we do have a little climate control vent and a fog light switch. And moving on to the door, we do have our latch to get in and out, power locks, and power windows. Very nice to see here in the Nissan Caravan. Moving into the center, we do have a climate control vent, our hazard switch, and defrost. And then our radio, or should I say our first radio. So this is for balance and fade, AM and FM, and our favorites. And then down below, we have our air conditioning and heating options. We have the rear heat on and off, dome light, and of course our full options off to the right. Where to send it, temperature to the bottom left, AC, all those goodies. But then we have our second radio. So this was outfitted from the factory with two radios. The reason for that is because the cassette player was actually an option here in 1994, and this particular Caravan got that option. So instead of giving you a better, more updated radio, they just added a second one. Very, very strange, but definitely very cool to see. I'm not quite sure what they would have put here if you didn't get a cassette player, so if you know, please leave a comment down below. Then we have the shifter. I like how the shifter is coming out of the center console. It's kind of an interesting look, but like I said, it feels great. Shifter throw is good, and of course, this is not the stock shift knob. Moving up the center console, we do get our power mirrors and a bunch of dead switches. So let's take a quick pause here from the interior to talk about the Silk Road. This is the Silk Road trim level of the Nissan Caravan, which basically means the most base model you can get before you start going down into like the true like cargo van versions of the Caravan. This is a base model pretty much with cloth seats instead of vinyl, power windows, little amenities like that, but it's still pretty much a base. So the reason I bring that up is because that's why there are so many dead switches here down below. Then we do get this openable center console, which is fine, but on the lid, you have very tiny cup holders. So we will in fact do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Nissan Caravan, and it fails. I fully expected it to. Not only has nothing older than 1995 ever passed the big friggin' bottle test, but also no Japanese imported vehicle I've ever tested has ever passed the big friggin' bottle test. So it was written on the wall years ago that this would not pass. Now we gotta talk about the seats, and the seats are honestly pretty comfortable. They're not anything crazy. I don't have any crazy features to go along with them, but they're nice, and I'm enjoying my experience in them. However, we do have 2 more rows of seating, so let's go do some more backseat reviews. All right, so I wanna start off outside of the Caravan because it has some cool features. I apologize for the wind, that'll go away in a second. Open the door here. And of course we get a sweet look into the cabin, but let's hop in. And right off the bat, we do have our own heating controls. So we have the heater, high, low, fan, things like that. Of course, we do get a little ashtray. Love to see that. And up above, we have the cooler. So the cooler is separate from the heater. Very, very interesting to see here. Of course, we have temperature, fan, all of that goodies. And we have 4 vents, which should be enough. God forbid. I apologize. I know this isn't my most flattering angle, but there's nowhere really to put the GoPro on. We are in the back of the 1994 Nissan Caravan Silk Road, and a couple of things to note. First of all, it does have sliding open windows, but they're manual. There you go. I have lights in here that I can turn on and off and things like that. And this chair that I'm sitting on right now can swivel and turn around, which is really, really cool. A lot of vans in this era, I'm thinking of the Toyota Hiace / Town Ace, they do that as well. And even some of the K vans, the small itty bitty guys, do it as well. Get ready with me while I get into the 3rd row. Pull this tab and this moves up a little bit to make it easier to get into the 3rd row. But I mean, already right off the bat, look at how much leg room there is. I don't think I'm gonna struggle at all. And honestly, I could fit a 4th row in here. I think if you really, really, really wanted to, you definitely could. Love the yellow Japanese lighting. Of course, we do have more ashtrays back here. Oh, and a little cup holder. That's kind of neat. Anyway, look at this leg room in the 3rd row. I don't think any minivan in the history of the world has ever had this much leg room. Maybe you could go up to one of those Ford E350s, Econolines, whatever, but man, this is some luxury living. I know the Silk Road isn't a particularly luxurious model, but I mean, come on, are you gonna argue with this? You really gonna argue with that? No, you're not. So very cool stuff in the back of the Nissan Caravan. However, there's one more thing I wanna show you, and it has to do with the door. That was a soft closed door. Haven't seen that on a van, and that is very, very cool. Moving on to the cargo space, come around here, big tailgate. And so the owner actually left some goodies back here. This is the original carpeting that would have came in the Nissan Caravan. He has swapped it out. This was a dealer option little all-weather floor mat. You see it says Nissan here. And this is a dealer optioned Nissan cover, which is very, very cool. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and it's bland, it's fine. Here's the thing, no van from this era, or really any van in the history of the world, has ever really won any awards for any design contests. This is a utility vehicle. This was meant to carry people not for fun, but for serious things. And so, styling wasn't really at the top of Nissan's list when they built this. However, with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving a Nissan Caravan Silk Road from 1994? Well, I think it's incredibly cool. It's always fun for me to sort of put myself into another era and another time and place when it comes to cars. The 1990s in Japan are very interesting to me because a lot of people always quote the 90s as being this amazing automotive time when it came to Japanese cars. We had the Mazda RX-7, the Nissan Skylines, the Toyota Supras, Acura NSX. These sort of holy grail vehicles. But in all reality, Japan was actually going through an economical crisis at the time. And so a lot of this technology carries over from the 80s, where Japan was very prosperous. So although this is a 94, you really got to look at this as about an 88. This generation, the E24 of the Nissan Caravan, started in 1986. And so it did get a facelift in 1990, but it was really just bumpers, headlights, that sort of thing. We're really dealing with an 80s vehicle right now. And there's one major difference between this and the vans that we got here in the US. That is fit and finish. 90s vans don't really hold up from the American market. I drove a Plymouth Voyager and I loved it dearly, but this has better fit and finish, higher quality materials. Even though Japan was in an economic crisis, they didn't give up on quality, and that speaks volumes about their culture. And so the vans we got here were more luxurious for sure, and a little bit friendlier to drive on our big American roads, where this definitely feels like a heavy piece of equipment rather than an automobile. But I mean, just look at the usability of this thing. The back is so awesome and comfortable. It's a manual, it's a diesel, something we didn't get much of here in the States, even when we did get manual minivans. I don't know. This to me is something super cool, and it's just really cool to dive into somewhat of a time capsule of an era that I never experienced. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Andrew for letting me take out his Nissan Caravan. When he emailed me, I had to double check that he didn't misspell or mistype anything. I didn't know this thing existed. And so for someone who does this for a living, it doesn't often happen, and so I'm always excited to drive interesting cars. Andrew's been absolutely awesome to work with, very knowledgeable about these vehicles and very kind, and I appreciate him very, very much. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I also want to say this is the first video I have filmed on my new GoPro. So my last GoPro Hero 9 finally died the other day due to the heat, and that GoPro did almost 800 reviews. And so I'm finally changing up, so if it looks a little different, that's why. But thank you guys so much for enabling me to do this, to call this work, to afford equipment like this. It means the world to me. So, huge, huge thank you. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.